12 September 2020, and I'm joined by my friend Tafadzwa Sambiri. How are you, Tafadzwa?
I'm doing well. How is it, Pardon? It's been a long time.
Fantastic. And today we are going to be having a quick discussion on a topic that is on the mouth of everybody, and that is the ANC delegation that went to Zimbabwe this week. What is your view on that delegation?
Well, first of all, I think it's we need to look at what made the ANC delegation go to Zimbabwe, what triggered the Zimbabwe visit, and first of all, we have to acknowledge the citizens that took part in the 31st of July protest. Because if it wasn't for those citizens that took part, that took a stand, Zimbabwe was not going to be on the map. Zimla is made out to be training right now. So my appreciation goes to average Zimbabwean who took part in the 31st of July protest. Going back to the delegation and what triggered it is because of the human rights violation in Zimbabwe. And if I'm not so sure your question, what was your question again? I think I lost you a bit there.
Yes, so I wanted to say, what do you think caused them to go to Zimbabwe, and do you think they met their objectives?
Okay, the issue that made them go to Zimbabwe is they're broken down in human rights. There are various human rights violations in Zimbabwe. As you are aware, Tawanda, the nephew to ZimLife editor Magdudus was adopted in broad daylight. So there's no constitutionalism in Zimbabwe at the moment. So this is what triggered the ANC delegation to pay a visit to ZANU PF. And then the issue of broken down in the rule of law in Zimbabwe, as you are aware, before the 31st of July, there were so many arrests, including the arrest of Wopo Chingono, and Jacob Ngarivume. So it's a cocktail of issues that triggered the ANC delegation's visit to Zimbabwe. So okay, basically, I would say it's the human rights issue in Zimbabwe.
To cause a delegation to go to Zimbabwe, the arrest of Wopo Chingono, Ngarivume, the abduction of the three girls, the abduction of Tawanda Mcheyo, is that sufficient to cause an international outcry?
I think we don't need to look at these events in isolation, Pardon. As you are aware, Zimbabwe has been on the map since 2000 because of human rights violation. But if you go back to 2017 November, when Emmerson Mnangagwa stepped in via military coup, a lot of organizations, a lot of governments gave Mnangagwa a chance, right? So now what we saw the past few months, few weeks, is a resurgence in the abuse of law in Zimbabwe. So now everyone is saying, wait a minute, what happened? Robert Mugabe is gone, but we still have these issues in Zimbabwe. So what is going on? So they then recalled to say, you know what, this is the issue. There is no rule of law in Zimbabwe. It's not a matter of Robert Mugabe being gone, being out of power, but the system that is ZANU PF is broken and is abusing citizens. So the event that happened, the arrest of Wopo Chingono, the arrest of Ngarivume, they just added on to whatever was going on in Zimbabwe since the year 2000. As you are aware, this is not the first delegation from South Africa. Thabo Mbeki, the president then, sent a delegation in 2002 after the election also, and it did fail. So the ANC as a party, as a governing party of South Africa, the ANC government, they know what is going on in Zimbabwe because they have been seized with this issue since 2002 rather. That's 18 years now.
Okay, then when they arrived in Zimbabwe, they had said they're going to meet members of the opposition, but they failed to meet those members of the opposition. They went there saying there's a crisis in Zimbabwe, but when they came back, they reversed that position. Do you think they underestimated ZANU PF? What went wrong in Harare?
I would say they underestimated ZANU PF because if you look at the composition of that delegation, it included Lindiwe Zulu, who was chief. She was very instrumental in the implementation of global political agreement. So she knows the dealings of ZANU PF. She knows what ZANU PF is made of. And they went in saying there's a crisis. And unfortunately, they didn't meet the players, which are the opposition, the civil society, the diplomats, because ZANU PF is being arrogant. And I wouldn't say they underestimated ZANU PF or ZANU PF. I would say rather ZANU PF is overestimating its power, because what we are seeing now is inflammatory statement coming from ZANU PF. They are accusing ANC of trying to jeopardize the Zimbabwe sovereignty. And very soon, I'm sure we'll start hearing statements about ANC being accused of selling out or something like that from the ZANU PF regime. So ZANU PF at the moment is being placed in a corner. So when they are being placed in a corner, they react in a certain way, the same way that they did when Mugabe was still in power. And they are doing that now. They are one of the most loyal allies to ZANU PF, which is ANC. So should they lose ANC sympathy, South Africa's sympathy, it will be good for the opposition, it will be good for the people of Zimbabwe also, because all along, it's the South Africans that have been blocking most resolutions against the government of Zimbabwe, the ZANU PF-led government.
Okay, but the South Africans were diplomatic in the way they responded. They did not openly say that they were denied permission to see the opposition. Does this mean that there's something holding them back? What does ZANU PF have on the ANC, which is making them fail to speak out in front of the ZANU PF delegation, of the ANC delegation?
I must say it's very complicated, and I must commend ANC. They are being pushed in a corner to say certain things, and they are avoiding that situation whereby you start blasting ZANU PF, you start blasting Zimbabwe, even though they are being pushed in a corner. And ZANU PF knows well too that if they push ANC reacts in a certain way, then there won't be any dialogue to talk of. ANC is not afraid of ZANU PF, or ZANU PF doesn't have anything against ANC. As much as ANC is corrupt, we all know about ANC's corruption here. It happens here, we know about it. And if anything is to come out of Zimbabwe, which is ANC officials are doing this in Zimbabwe, it won't be something new. Everyone knows that ANC is corrupt. But the ANC guys, they are playing it in a safe way. They don't want this dialogue thing that they want to start to end. They don't want it to be broken, to break down before it even starts. So it's fine, they are taking eggs on their face right now, but they are doing it for the good of the country, for the good of the party, for the good of dialogue. Because ZANU PF pushes them into a corner and they react also, there won't be any dialogue. And you have to understand what ZANU PF is afraid of dialogue. They know dialogue, they will come in conditions, maybe to reform, and then that means they are going to lose power in 2023. So ANC is looking at a bigger picture. They are not worried about being called names, being denied to meet certain individuals, certain organizations. They are in it for the long run, I must say. So they are playing really smart.
Okay, but now they have sent 2 delegations, and both delegations failed to meet the opposition. What is the next step now? What are they going to do?
Okay. The reason why all these 2 delegations did not meet any other officials besides ZANU PF is because the ZANU PF government is saying, and South Africa has no mandate from SADC, from AU. So the next best move for Cyril Ramaphosa would be to take up the Zimbabwean story, the Zimbabwean made out with SADC or the African Union. Then the ANC government or the Cyril Ramaphosa-led delegation comes in under SADC or under African Union, which is the AU. I think that would be the only way out. And I think they will follow that route, because this is the excuse that ZANU PF is giving to say, we are a sovereign nation, ANC, South Africa cannot tell us what to do. But if now they're coming under the power, under the weight of an influential body, continental body like AU, ZANU PF has to comply. And I see this being the next step. This is where we are going right now.
Okay, what about the rumors that we're hearing that the South African president owns a platinum mine or some farms in Zimbabwe? Is this something that could make him tread cautiously when he's dealing with the Zimbabwe issue?
I don't know what he owns in Zimbabwe. I must say, I don't know these rumors, whether it's true or not. I really don't know. Even if he owns a mine in Zimbabwe, even if he owns a farm in Zimbabwe, how much is that farm worth? Because these guys here, they talk of billions. They announced a 500 billion rand stimulus package. So even if they want to take money, they can still take money in South Africa. There are plenty of gold mines here. There are plenty of farms in South Africa. And I don't know, but I hate to believe this rumor, whether it's true or not. Yes, the few individuals in the ANC might have investments in Zimbabwe, but are these investments bigger than the investment that they have in South Africa and the demand that they make in South Africa? Certainly not. So these are just stories, social media stories, and we have had the same thing in 2008 when President then Thabo Mbeki was negotiating the GPA. There was a lot of rumor that he owned so and so in Zimbabwe. He got shares in mining companies, but none of those rumors were confirmed. They were just rumors and mere speculation, just the same thing that we have now. So I would see it as a silly excuse, just a rumor, maybe being pushed also by ZANU PF to discredit the delegation. So what happens now if these guys come to Zimbabwe, they don't do any action, the opposition is bound to fall into a trap to say, no, Cyril Ramaphosa has got a farm, they've got this, right? Then they can be mediators. But if South Africa cannot be mediator, then who's going to mediate the Zimbabwe crisis? No one knows Zimbabwean crisis better than the ANC government, the South African government, South African people. So these rumors also might be pushed by the regime in Zimbabwe to discredit the mediators, to push opposition into a certain trap to say, you know what, these guys own assets in Zimbabwe, so they're not credible. But for now, I think the MDC has played it well. They've not allowed themselves to listen to rumors. They are insisting on meeting the mediators, the envoys from South Africa, which is a good thing.
Okay, why would Chamisa want to meet the mediators? Why can't he just call the mediators from Zimbabwe and arrange his own meeting?
It is impossible because, excuse me, you know that Emmerson Mnangagwa arranged Pollard, right? So if Nelson Chamisa is going to meet or to ask to meet Emmerson Mnangagwa, there is no way that Emmerson Mnangagwa will elevate Nelson Chamisa to say we are going to meet one-on-one. You'll be told, go and join Pollard. You can only discuss anything under Pollard. And when Chamisa goes into Pollard, he sits there with Brian Mtekis, he's just an ordinary person now. And this is why he's saying, no, I'm the bigger party. I'm the one with an issue. I'm the one with 2 million plus votes. So if ever we're going to have any talks, any meeting, any discussions, it should be mediated by someone who's respected, who's not a Zimbabwean, who's an outsider, who has influence also to say, if we agree on these certain positions, that person can guarantee that we are going to implement those positions. But now if you go to Poland, Emmerson Mnangagwa rather, is the chairperson, is a player also. So it's already compromised. There's no way that you can go and sit in Poland because it's chaired by Emmerson Mnangagwa, the same person that you want to challenge. So it makes sense, it makes political sense for him to push for dialogue that is facilitated by South Africa, the ANC, or the South African government. So it really makes political sense.
Okay, what can happen if no dialogue happens between Idi Mnangagwa and Nelson Chamisa? Can Mnangagwa push all the way to 2023 with a situation like this?
You know, the situation that we're in is the same situation that we're in 2017. Rather 2007, when things were so bad, there was inflation, kids were not going to school. We are almost in the same situation. And if you factor in the impact of the COVID-19 on the global economy, it makes it even worse than 2007 situation. So yes, ZANU PF is there. They don't really care about you and I, the average person. They can push all the way until 2023. But now, if they're going to push all the way until 2023, there are some challenges that they will face. Chief among them is the economy, non-performance of the economy. So who's going to react more? Is their best? Is the best way? By this I mean the guys in the uniform, the security sector, as they did in 2017, started striking and protesting and looting shops in CBD Harare. Right? So they cannot push. They can push on their own individual, what they have money, they can push, but their base also, their support structure will not be able to support them. I'm sure you saw on Twitter, soldiers were coming out holding Zim Lives Matter, and they were saying all these problems that people are talking about, they are legitimate, because they are facing the same problem that you and I face also. There's no shop for soldiers, there's no special shop for police guys. For the guys in the CIO, maybe they use or they get special allowances, but for the ordinary soldier, ordinary policeman, they all go through the struggle that every Zimbabwean goes through. So will these guys stand and sit there for the next 3 years or 5 years protecting Emmerson Mnangagwa and ZANU PF? And my answer is no, they cannot go on to do that. If you take also into account the shootings in Chivu, we don't know who was shooting who. We don't know who those suspects were. We don't know who are they, whether they're from the intelligence, whether they're from the army or the police. And for them to have the guts to open fire in public, it shows something is wrong, something is not really holding, the center is not really holding. I don't think on a security issue, security level, I don't think it's feasible. I think it's advisable for Emerson Mnangagwa to push the current situation in Zimbabwe. Or those guns will be turned against them because, as I said, these soldiers, the police guys, they all face problems that we and I face. They're struggling to make ends meet. So it's dangerous. It's a security threat to Emerson Mnangagwa's ZANU PF for them to allow this situation to continue.
Okay, but is it not also dangerous for Nelson Chamisa to hope that someone outside the soldiers or the ANC or someone else, the people, is going to do something? Is there nothing that Nelson Chamisa can do right now instead of waiting for outside parties?
Okay, that's a very important point that you just raised, pardon. Because if you are going to look at it in a different angle, this is why I mentioned why the ANC delegation is coming to Zimbabwe. It is very unfortunate that the politicians have now taken center stages. They want to come out and talk to these ZANU PF guys, right? But if you are to go back to the build-up of the 31st July movement, it was the ordinary people that were pushing for it. It was little-known people like Jacob Ngarivume, the journalists like Oppo, and other social media people, influencers like Sambiri, I'm not so sure of the name, that were pushing for it. So Nelson Chamisa on his own is already compromised. He's coming in from a weaker position because if we go back to the reason why the ANC delegation is coming to Zimbabwe is because although there are other factors that emanate from the year 2000 up to 2020, but chief among them was the 31st July protest, which was citizen-led, right? So if Nelson Chamisa is going to go into these talks, the ZANU PF guys can say to him, after all, you are not the one who pushed for this protest. We didn't violate your rights. We didn't stop you from protesting. We stopped ordinary citizens and journalists from protesting. So why are you coming into the table? So him and this party taking a back seat is going to cost them a lot of votes, a lot of support, a lot of sympathy. And I think strategically speaking, they might have miscalculated the mood in the country, and 31st July has proved that. And they really need to stick with the people. They need to follow what the people are saying, what the people want. But right now, he's going to a table. He's going to this discussion representing the people of Zimbabwe, but he's representing best on the 2018 vote, which I also voted for him. It's fine, perfectly fine, right? But the people that started this whole process, all Zimbabwean lives matter, are not even there on the table. And that is my worry also. I feel like even the ANC government is going to talk to opposition civil society. They should also talk to some of the people that will represent the citizens of Zimbabwe, because after all, it is the citizens of Zimbabwe that took up matters into their own hand to say, no, we are not going to wait for a political party. We want to go into the streets, and these are our demands. We demand rule of law, demand better governance, demand an economy that is performing well. So I think for MDC as a whole, the failure of them to endorse the 31st July movement was a big on goal. I know they still have time. I support them. They're still the biggest opposition party, but I think now they need to have more policies, more strategies that are aligned to the ordinary person on the street, so that when something happens, they are not on the wrong side of the movement, like what is going on right
now. Okay. My question, though, is Nelson Chamisa seems to be relying a lot on external parties. The United States ambassador even requested to meet the ANC delegation. What do you make of that?
I think, look, he's a diplomat, he's in Zimbabwe, he's allowed to give his own account. The US ambassador, he's allowed, and I think it's effectively normal for him to meet with the ANC delegation also. He's seeing what is going on in Zimbabwe. And yeah, you're right. Also, Nelson Chamisa does not need to rely on external forces, external people for help. But then it's quite complicated also because you are dealing with a ZANU PF that is armed, that is the rule of law, that is the courts, that is the police, that is the soldiers on their side. So when it comes to a situation like this, an outside mediator is your best hope. So I don't think there's anything wrong with that, because if we are going to say we don't need outside help, the only thing is that we have so many people being butchered, being adapted on the street of Zimbabwe, the street of Harare, Bulawayo, Toko, wherever it is. And without outside influence, ZANU PF will not reform. If Nelson Chamisa go to ZANU PF right now and say we want to talk, they'll tell him, get out of here, we don't care about you. You have heard statement from Patrick Chinamasa, how brutal it has become. So Nelson Chamisa goes to ZANU PF right now when he's on, he says, let's go for talks. They'll say, get out of here. They are not sincere about dialogue. They have to be forced to dialogue. That's like what happened in 2018 with the GPA. They have to be forced. ZANU PF will not just go for dialogue on its own. That's not going to happen. So this external influence is very important. It's very powerful. That's why even ZANU PF, they don't want, the US diplomat ambassador to meet with the ANC guys, because they know that it will damage their reputation also.
Okay, but don't you think then we may be having the wrong objective for dialogue? The MDC Alliance was already in parliament. They were already in councils where the ZANU PF. What's different from going to meet Idi Mnangagwa in Poland, and if you're not happy with what he said there, just walk out?
It is different, because remember the issue that the point, the whole debate, the whole issue, it goes back again 2008, right? It's a legitimate issue. So if you say Nelson Chamisa goes into Poland and talks to Emmerson Mnangagwa, that's him saying, you know what, Emmerson Mnangagwa, you won the 2018 July election, so I'm fine being in Poland. That's why even he refused to be the official opposition official. He refused that position when they wanted to change the laws. He refused it. So it doesn't make sense for him to go into Poland. Yes, I know it's a bit conflicted because they are still in parliament, and then they are fighting the regime. They are saying, it's illegitimate, and they have canceled that they're running, right? But you should have to understand, the MDC is in parliament, the MDC is in council to represent the people, to try to deliver to its voters, to try to change the way Zimbabwe is governed. Like say, if you're in council, if you have better policies and you improve the lives of people in Kwekwe, it's a good score, it's a good point on the opposition. You have them in parliament, you have guys like that sitting in powerful portfolio committees, exposing all the rot with command agriculture. That is good. Although they don't have much influence, but at least they are trying to expose what is wrong with the corruption that is taking place in Zimbabwe. And for me, it makes sense, makes political sense. It makes a lot of sense for them to be in parliament in councils. But at the same time, Nelson Chamisa to say, I don't recognize Emmerson Mnangagwa. They are okay. It is within their right to do that.
Okay, but we are now 2 years after the elections. At what point is Chamisa going to say, I forget about 2018 and I start preparing for 2023?
At some point, he has to pray for 2023. It's a fact. Time is moving by. Even though he can start preparing for 23 now, it doesn't mean he has to say, okay, I know I didn't win 2018. He won 2018. According to him, what he has said, he won 2018. And he has the right to claim that victory, because if he believes he won the 2018 election, and ZANU PF cannot prove, or even ZE cannot prove Mnangagwa's final numbers, final vote, then it means he has a cash. And even if he can't drop it, he can take it to 2023 with him. Because if he's saying he won, he had more votes, and at the same time, ZE cannot prove the exact number of votes that Emmerson Mnangagwa had, then he has a case. He can go to 2023 with that case because he won, and it might be a motivating factor for his base also. They will say he won. So what we just need to work on maybe is prevent the rigging that took place in 2018 again. But if he won 2018, there's no point when he's dropping saying, no, I lost 2018. He's been sticking to this song for 2 years now. So he might as well continue with it.
And then in terms of the opposition, do you think the opposition is strong enough to win in 2023?
It is with a half that I have to say this, pardon, but the opposition, the way the opposition is right now, they are not going to win in 2023. They are not going to win, not that they don't have support. We support them, we love them, but because of the structure, the administration of the party, I don't think they've fixed errors. They've fixed the rigging in the ZANU PF system for them to take away the 2023 vote. So We are in a situation whereby even if 2023 comes, the way the opposition is right now, the way they are disjointed, they are not going to win 2023 election. Look at the MDs that don't even have office. They don't even have office, which is the MDC Alliance. I don't know where they're operating from. There are no offices, right? They don't have a database of their structures. They haven't even started selecting, let's say, for example, rural areas. They are not doing what is needed in rural areas for them to win the vote. We have a census that is coming up. We have a delimitation committee that is coming up. I haven't heard MDC talk about the delimitation committee, the delimitation of our boundaries for 2023. Already ZANU PF will try to manipulate the census and then go on to manipulate the delimitation, which means we end up having less seats in urban areas and more seats going to rural areas. And look, I've raised a lot of points, a lot of issues with the way MDC is run as a party. And if we are going to go into election tomorrow, MDC will lose. They will not lose, not because people don't vote for them. 100 people can vote for them at a polling station, but ZANU PF will end up getting 80% of the votes at that polling station. And the same reason that they've been losing elections since 2002, 2008, 2013 is the same reason that they will lose again in 2023. MDC is not failing to fix ZANU PF in how ZANU PF manipulates the vote. If you go back to 2018 again, MDC made noise about the voters' roll. When eventually the voters' roll was released by Chigumba and Zek, MDC did not even audit the voters roll on their own. You go back to 2018 again, MDC lied. They made noise that they had 40,000 polling agents all over, but they didn't have polling agents. They couldn't account for V11. They couldn't produce V11 in court because they didn't have agents. Do they have agents now? No, they don't have agents. So they will lose, not because people don't love them, people support them, but they will lose because the administration of the party is in tatters, is not sticking. Until they fix those problems, until maybe Nelson Chamisa appoints a special election team that is going to prepare the election for 2023, I'm afraid the opposition will still lose. As it is right now, I don't see them winning. Even if you vote for them 5 million, 10 million, they will still lose because of rigging. So they are not prepared. They are still worried about, they are still fighting for 2018, but at the same time, it's not a problem for them to fight for 2080, right? But they also need strategy for 2023. I've seen so many people saying, no, 2023 is far, but look, what are they doing now? They're not doing anything now. They can't even tell supporters to demonstrate, to go into the street, to demonstrate against the ZANU PF system. So they are not prepared for 2023, and it will be a huge, huge defeat for them. Not because they don't have support, they have support, but because they are not prepared. And you know what happens now is, most people that voted in 2018, they are not going to vote in 2023. There's going to be a voter apathy because of rigging and because of what MDC officials are saying. They are pushing the narrative that ZANU PF always rigged, but then they are not proving to the people how ZANU PF rigged. So they are creating a situation whereby a lot of the electorate are getting fed up with the elections. They will ask themselves, we always vote for MDC, they always get rigged. Why are they not smart? So it's a nightmare situation right now that they're facing. So unless they start changing their tone, unless they start preparing for 2023 now, I don't see them coming back. It might be a worse defeat than 2013 one. They might even get less than 15 seats. They're not smart.
Okay. So I think we've covered quite a lot of issues, and I now want us to conclude with answering this question of whether the relationship between the ANC and ZANU PF is totally broken down. I want to play a clip here very, very quickly, and I want you to answer after you watch that clip. This is the Patrick Chinamasa who was speaking here, and I want you to listen to what he says.
First, we agreed that Zimbabwe and South Africa are equal sovereign states. Zimbabwe is not a province of South Africa. That we agreed very clearly. South Africa, in the context of international relations, South Africa is not a big brother to Zimbabwe. It has no overseer role to play on Zimbabwe or in the region.
Right, so I think you saw that statement that he's saying there. Sorry, let me just end Chinamasa here. I think you saw the statement that Chinamasa was saying that Zimbabwe is not a province of South Africa. That's very harsh language. It's almost undiplomatic. Do you think Chinamasa is telling ANC that we can do without you, we can go alone as ZANU PF?
You know, I'm really worried about the statement that have been coming from Chinamasa lately. He's been issuing very dangerous statements, and I think ZANU PF is crossing the line when it comes to them dealing with ANC. The relationship has not really broken down because we still have the two parties communicating and talking. But we also had a statement from S. Magashule when he was interviewed just after 31 July. He said there's a crisis in Zimbabwe. So the ANC government, the ANC as a ruling party, they know that ZANU PF is a problem. They blame everyone but themselves. So there are bigger problems going on between ZANU PF and ANC. This is why maybe ANC did not respond when they were asked why they didn't meet the other guy. They were a bit diplomatic. They didn't even respond to some of the Chinamasa statements. So yeah, Zimbabwe is not a province of South Africa, but South Africa is still a big brother. We are housed in our millions in South Africa, but the relationship is not completely broken down. I think ZANU PF, what they are trying to push, what Chinamasa is trying to push for ANC to react in a certain way so that they find an excuse not to engage ANC and not to continue with the dialogue that ANC is pushing. But as I said earlier on, ANC is playing really smart. They are being diplomatic. They are being calm. They want diplomacy to go on. They want this dialogue to start to kick in. And they know that once dialogue kicks in, there will be maybe a chance for a free and fair election in 2023. And ZANU PF is pushing them to the other side. It's pushing them to react in a certain way so that there's no dialogue that will lead to a free and fair election in 2023. So I don't think it is completely broken down, but it is hanging by threads. It depends what the ANC says, but if ANC maintains this maturity, I don't think it will ever be completely or totally broken.
Okay, then we have the issue of G40. Does ZANU PF have a genuine complaint when they say the ANC is giving G40 political space? Is this correct?
I'm not really sure what they mean when they say political space, because what if these guys are under refugee status? They're saying South African refugee status. And political space, I haven't seen G40 guys, the so-called G40 guys, addressing meetings or I don't know, having consultative meetings with Zimbabweans in large groups. They just issued, statements on Twitter, on social media. So when he says political space, I don't really know what Chinamasa means, but I don't think ANC is giving them political space. ANC is just giving them a home. And I wouldn't say ANC is the South African constitution that is giving them a home. And most of us, we don't even know the status, the resident status of these individuals. What if they've been in South Africa or they've been as permits and they're staying using those business permits, or they have permanent residence in South Africa? We don't even know. So if they have permanent residence or they have permit to stay in South Africa, they can stay in South Africa for as many years as they want to. And I don't believe that the ANC is giving them political space. They are not doing any political activities apart from issuing tweets only.
Right. So I think we should end it here. And I've got a number of other guests coming up. I've got MDCT, I've got Zimbabwe People Power Movement coming up to talk about the very same issue. I've got the ZANU PF representative coming at 4 p.m. And it's just painful for me when I'm traveling here in South Africa. I just came from Midrand now. There's at least 500 people standing outside from Zimbabwe who are looking for a peace job. And every day, most of them don't get a peace job. So we have a problem in terms of our people here. They're out in the open for everyone to see. So when ZANU PF is speaking, then the moment someone gets out of their house, they see Zimbabweans everywhere. So I don't know how that can be solved. I'll ask this question to the ZANU PF spokesman here in South Africa when he comes, as to how this can be addressed, because we've got so many illegal immigrants here from Zimbabwe. And I think this is one thing that is pushing the South Africans also to try to solve the problem. Is there anything else you want to say before we close?
Just to add on your last statement, I think the crisis in Zimbabwe, as I said earlier on, it affects South Africa directly, and this is why South Africa is pushing for a resolution, for some kind of dialogue, political settlement in Zimbabwe, because there are millions of Zimbabwe that are here. Even there's another lady that was, adopted, that was raped leading up to the 31st of July protest. She, never mind that there's a lockdown, there's an embargo, the borders are closed. She managed to sneak into South Africa because she only feels safe in South Africa. And the ANC government sees all these things. And they need a resolution in Zimbabwe. They need Zimbabwe to go on its legs, to be moving forward as a country so that the economy in Zimbabwe benefits Zimbabweans. We all don't need to be in Joburg, in Pretoria, in Cape Town. Like, look at now the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. Most of our brothers and sisters that were working in the hospitality sector, they are now jobless. They are engaging in all sorts of trades. Like, as you say, they are standing by the roads, the streets, looking for jobs. And most of them, they were more probably in the hospitality sector. And these ANC officials see all these people. They see Zimbabwean teachers working as maids, which is very unfortunate. That's why they are pushing for the Zimbabwe to get back that dignity for political settlement in Zimbabwe. And I think deep down, ANC knows ZANU PF is a problem, and they know that ZANU PF is a failure. They cannot govern well. So they are pushing for this thing to work so that at least Zimbabwe gets back on its legs, not on its knees as it is at the moment.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Tafadzwa Sambiri. And I've put your Twitter handle here on the screen for people to see. You've got a huge following from the days when we were talking before the elections. And I know you are very passionate about a well-organized MDC. I hope that the MDC leaders are listening. Especially my own passion is uniting the MDC Alliance with the MDCT. I think they're wasting a lot of time fighting each other compared to trying to win the elections. And some of these complaints end up coming up, but they may not.
That is a fact. That's a fact. If you look at it, the Harare mayoral election, MDC was celebrating a victory against another MDC. You know, it's very unfortunate that we are now celebrating victories against our fellow brothers in the other movement on the other side instead of celebrating victories against ZANU PF guys, brother. So it's very unfortunate, and this is my wish also for MDC to be united and for the good of the country, for the good of the citizen of Zimbabwe, because I'm sure every Zimbabwean has hopes on MDC, even those that are in ZANU PF also. So it will be good for the parties to unite and to put the interests of Zimbabweans, their supporters, first.
Right. Thank you very much, Mr. Sambiri. And we'll talk again next week. I always try to get you because now I can't drive to you to sit in your car and we talk. At least this
Right.
now the method that's available.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, sir.
Bye.